The Art Director's Debrief, Wuthering Heights Deconstructed, Episode 3, The Betrayal of a Savage Soul. Hello and welcome back to the Emotive Archive. We left Catherine and Heathcliff as inseparable feral children, masters of their own wild kingdom on the moors. But their perfect, isolated world has been breached. Civilization, in the form of the Linton's bulldog, has sunk its teeth into Catherine, dragging her into the refined and seductive world of Thrushcross Grange. In the chapters we will deconstruct today, 7, 8, and 9, we will witness the devastating consequences of this encounter. This is the story of a transformation, a double life, a fateful choice, and a misunderstanding so profound that it will unleash a storm of tragedy that will consume 2 generations. This is the anatomy of a soul's betrayal. Chapter 7 opens with Catherine's return after 5 weeks at the Grange. The transformation is immediate and shocking. The wild, barefoot girl who left is now a poised, elegant young lady in a silk frock. Bronte masterfully uses clothing and appearance as a powerful symbol for this internal change. She is now civilized, and her first act is to laugh at Heathcliff's dirty, unkempt appearance. This laughter, though perhaps careless, is the first great act of betrayal. She is for the first time judging him by the standards of the outside world, the world of the Lintons. Heathcliff's reaction is one of deep, burning humiliation. He understands immediately that a chasm has opened between them. His famous line, "I shall be as dirty as I please," is not just defiance, it is the cry of a wounded heart, a desperate attempt to cling to their old world as she begins to leave it behind. The dinner scene with the Lintons is a masterclass in social tension. Hindley, now the cruel master of the Heights, continues his systematic degradation of Heathcliff, locking him away. Heathcliff's act of throwing hot applesauce at Hindley is not just a childish tantrum, it is an act of rebellion, a violent rejection of the new, oppressive social order that has made him a servant in his own home and separated him from Catherine. This scene solidifies the central conflict, the raw, passionate, and natural world of Heathcliff versus the refined, controlled, and civilized world of the Lintons, with Catherine now caught precariously between them. Chapter 8 explores Catherine's attempt to live a double life. She maintains her friendship with Heathcliff, reverting to her old wild self on the moors, but in the parlour she performs the role of the refined lady for Edgar Linton, who begins to visit her. This creates an unsustainable psychological tension. She cannot be both the wild creature of the moors and the elegant mistress of the Grange. The 2 sides of her soul are at war. This war comes to a head in a scene of shocking, savage violence. During one of Edgar's visits, Catherine, in a fit of rage, pinches Nelly and shakes the baby Hareton. Edgar is horrified. He witnesses for the first time the black temper, the untamed wildness that lies just beneath her civilized facade. Yet, instead of fleeing, he is captivated. Her passion, so alien to his own placid nature, only deepens his infatuation. The scene ends with their first confession of love, a union born not from understanding, but from the dangerous allure of opposites. This leads us to the novel's tragic climax in Chapter 9. The chapter opens with Hindley, now a drunken, abusive tyrant, further tormenting his son and household. Against this backdrop of domestic misery, Catherine confesses to Nelly Dean that Edgar has proposed and she has accepted. What follows is one of the most famous and heartbreaking confessions in all of literature. It is here that the textual anatomy of her soul is laid bare. She explains her reasons for marrying Edgar, and they are entirely social and pragmatic. He is handsome, pleasant, young, cheerful, and rich, and will make her the greatest woman of the neighborhood. She is choosing civilization. She is choosing status. But immediately after this logical explanation, her true, wild heart rebels. She confesses that she is certain she is wrong. In her soul and in her heart, she knows this marriage is a betrayal, and then she delivers her immortal lines, "My great miseries in this world have been Heathcliff's miseries. He's more self than I am. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same." She contrasts this with her love for Edgar. "My love for Linton is like the foliage in the woods. Time will change it, I'm well aware, as winter changes the trees. My love for Heathcliff resembles the eternal rocks beneath, a source of little visible delight, but necessary." She concludes with the ultimate declaration of their unified existence. "Nelly, I am Heathcliff." The tragedy is absolute. Heathcliff, hiding in the shadows, has heard the first part of her confession, that it would degrade her to marry him. He does not stay to hear the second, the part where she declares him to be her very soul. His own wounded pride and shame cause him to flee into the stormy night, disappearing from her life. When Catherine realizes he is gone, her reaction is one of pure, frantic despair. The violent storm that erupts on the moors is a perfect reflection of her inner torment. She has made her fateful choice, and in doing so has not secured her happiness, but has ripped her own soul in two.
Now that we have anatomized these devastating events, let us elevate our analysis. The traditional reading sees Catherine's choice as a tragic, romantic mistake. But what if we view it through a more radical, almost philosophical lens? We will argue that Catherine's decision is not just a betrayal of a lover, it is an act of spiritual suicide, a conscious and deliberate rejection of her own authentic, feral self in favor of a socially acceptable but ultimately soul-crushing persona. This is not a love story, it is the anatomy of a soul's self-destruction. Let us deconstruct the two opposing forces vying for Catherine's soul, Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. They are not just houses, they are two different states of being, two opposing philosophies of life. Wuthering Heights, along with the moors that surround it, represents the world of nature, of authenticity, of raw, untamed, and sometimes violent emotion. It is a world of instinct. Heathcliff is the high priest of this world, a being as wild and elemental as the landscape itself. The bond between Catherine and Heathcliff is not a civilized romance. It is a pagan union, a recognition of two souls forged from the same eternal rocks. Their love is amoral, powerful, and exists entirely outside the bounds of social convention. It is a state of being. Thrushcross Grange, in contrast, represents the world of civilization. It is a world of social rules, of propriety, of status, of wealth, and of repressed emotion. It is a world of becoming, of aspiring to a higher social station. Edgar Linton is the prince of this world. He is kind, gentle, and refined. But he is also weak, conventional, and ultimately artificial. He represents a life of comfort and safety, but one that requires the taming of the natural self. When Catherine chooses to marry Edgar, she is not choosing one man over another. She is choosing an entire philosophy of life. She is choosing civilization over nature. She is choosing to become a lady at the expense of her true feral self. Her confession to Nelly is the moment she articulates this spiritual suicide. She knows with an absolute and terrifying clarity that her soul belongs to Heathcliff. He's more myself than I am. This is not hyperbole. She is stating a metaphysical fact. By choosing to marry Edgar, she is choosing to live a life in which she is fundamentally disconnected from her own essence. The result is not just unhappiness, it is a literal and spiritual disintegration. The fever she contracts after Heathcliff leaves is not just a physical illness, it is the first symptom of her soul tearing itself apart. This reading allows us to see Heathcliff's disappearance in a new light. It is not just the flight of a spurned lover, it is the moment the natural half of Catherine's soul is violently ripped away, leaving the civilized half to wither and die in a world to which it does not truly belong. The storm that rages on the moors is not just a storm, it is the grief of nature itself at this unnatural separation. This interpretation also reframes the entire concept of the ghost we met in the opening chapters. The ghost of Catherine that haunts Wuthering Heights is not the spirit of the lady who married Edgar. It is the ghost of her true, wild, feral self, the part of her that belongs to Heathcliff and the moors, forever trying to get back into a world from which it has been exiled. The tragedy of Wuthering Heights is not that two lovers were kept apart by society. It is that a single, powerful and wild soul was convinced by society to betray and destroy itself. All the vengeance, all the death, all the haunting that follows is the direct, inevitable consequence of this one single and unforgivable act of spiritual suicide. Thank you for joining me in the Emotive Archive.